Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Schemers, and this is a new music industry kind of crime thriller, comedy, drama, biopic, all kinds of things thrown into one, from writer-director Dave Mclean, focusing on Davie from Dundee, who is a young man who really wants to break into the music industry after a strange series of events leads him to losing out on his football career after an injury. And I love how this film hooks you. It shows the personality that Mclean brings to the film, brings to the energy that he brings to his direction, and it introduces Davie in a fun and interesting way with a crazy story that just grabs your attention from the start of like these crazy chain of events that leads him to being injured. And it's a fun story, and you have Conor, who really anchors this film with a really strong performance as Davie. And one of the bigger elements of the film is a love story, because why not? And you have Tara Lee's Shona, who he falls in love with, and, you know, I don't think it's anything special in terms of a love story. I think it's a fine little connection. And you do have his two friends, like Scott, played by Sean Conor, and John, played by Grant Robert Keelan. And you have their friendship and their dynamic. And, you know, what this film starts to do is delving into some more like gangster elements of like how's he going to start off this big show that he's trying to do. He wants to get Iron Maiden to come to Dundee, and like they have some actual archival footage towards the end of the film, like, oh, this is like pre-Bruce Dickinson Iron Maiden. They were playing like Rothschild. I'm just like, I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, so I'm like, okay, I'm down. You have my attention, you have my curiosity, and the film has some of those elements. It really uses the music well, brings a lot of personality to the proceedings, especially the choices in music that they have, a lot of punk and stuff like that. But for some, like, I feel like this film starts to really lose steam after the first act into the middle of the second act. And by the time you get to where it's wrapping up, it becomes so by the numbers and beat by beat exactly what you expect from it. It kind of loses some of that personality and energy that it had earlier in the film that really grabbed my attention. And it has a great hook, but then it didn't decide, it's an inanimate object. It kind of just feels like it leans back into some of those safe areas, safe choices, expectations of this kind of story, and it becomes very mundane and what you might expect. And it's less fresh, it's less interesting, and I felt bad because I really did lose interest as this film went longer and longer. But it still has enough of those elements, like you have a strong performance for Conor. You want to root for Davie even though he's scheming and getting into trouble. And, you know, it has a solid love story. It has solid crime elements. It has solid elements. Some really good use of music. And it still is an hour and a half kind of just, here you go. Here's this true story. It's interesting enough. Have a good time with it. But those are my thoughts on Schemers. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.